So I want to shift over now. Now that we're finished with Torah and sexuality, so Rav Ashi's very happy about that. I thought we would. So this is actually what I originally intended to do. That was the joke. I thought what I originally wanted to do was. You'll see why. What I originally wanted to do was really I wanted to cover. It's a good thing to do over the year. Just like little bits or little parts of Koheles, Eov, and Mishlei. Like Koheles, Eov, and Mishlei. And the reason why is that each one, I think, in their own way, is basically forms like, in a sense, a triumvirate for how you're supposed to look at life. All right. So I figured we'll start with Koheles, and today will be like the introduction, and then we'll do like over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we'll go through some of the stiras, and then we'll do Mishlei, and then we'll do some of the contradictions there. We'll do a couple weeks, and then we'll do Eov, probably using the Mora because that's usually the best guide for Eov. Again, a little bit. What?
What's the best guide?
The Mor Nevuchim. Mor Nevuchim. He spells out. He actually goes in pretty detail of the different philosophical arguments of Eov. So these Sfarim aren't really studied that often, sadly. Really, they should be. But if I had to ask you what you guys think each one's about, so what would you say each one's about? Let's start with Eov. What is Eov about?
Jobs. Yeah.
Ideas about justice, right? Clearly, without knowing any details about Eov, everyone knows it starts off with this guy, right? Okay, but if you look at Eov, Eov's fascinating. There's a whole question whether Eov actually took place or not, and the Gemara takes it up. But what's fascinating about it is that it's really different philosophical positions for how God's justice works. Okay, so that's Eov. What's Mishlei?
Proverbs. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like
Parables,
Teachings. What does that mean? Come on. No, come on. You got
parables for like how to live life.
How to live life. Okay.
What's your riddle?
Yeah, how to live life. But I agree. He's right. How to live life. But it's really
path to personal perfection.
Path to personal perfection. That's good. Who said that?
All right.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, he's right.
Boy.
The path to personal perfection. All right. But the thing is that if you look at Mishlei, what's cool about Mishlei is that obviously Mishlei is written in what style? In the name itself?
Proverbs.
Mushal. What's a mushal? No, it's not a proverb. Right. So what does it always tell you? Well, no, you're right. In fact, the Rambam says there's two terms: is riddle or parable. But the point of them, not riddle like a stumper, but it's written in a way where you have to actually, you have to actually get into it. You have to go in depth to find out what it's talking about. But a lot of times what happens in Mishlei is that it tells you ideas in ethics and how to live in personal perfection, where they're not like huge chidushim. Like for instance, we'll take up laziness. Okay, like why people are lazy. So when we get to the answer, you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. But there's certain resistances that people have that prevent them from seeing why this idea is true. So you'll see that when we get to Mishlei. Koheles, though, of the three, Koheles is the toughest one. Koheles is probably one of the toughest Sfarim to ever really understand, as you'll soon see. So what do you guys think Koheles is about?
I would say wisdom.
Wisdom.
And the others too.
That's just too vague.
I know.
You do better than that.
Life. Pursuit of wisdom.
Purpose of life.
Or physical on earth.
Okay. Well, Mick is right to some extent because what does the Koheles say at the end? So davar. Right. So at the end, all it comes down to is one thing. Right. So you're right.
Can you distinguish that from Mishlei though?
What?
No. Life in a way sounds very similar.
Oh, okay. So expand on that. I mean, without even getting into Koheles yet, what would you have to say? Mishlei is path to personal perfection. I like that.
Koheles is about
Things that detract.
the of the world.
Oh, good. Meaning what?
Yes.
Not in the world.
Like a rejection of things which not lead to perfection.
Psychology.
Okay, even better. Okay, that's also good.
Psychology.
Okay.
That's what the
Or the illusion of
No. What? The illusion of life. Okay, that's very I like that. It's a grand type of view. What Koheles really does, though, is that, and that's why people don't like Koheles, is because Koheles basically shows you that every ambition you have in life is worthless, and every pleasure you pursue is basically a pointless pursuit. That's Koheles, as you'll soon see. Koheles is not about personal perfection. It's just about how to view life itself. All right, and what ends up happening in Koheles is that your view of life is what? Every pursuit you engage in, every ambition you think of, and every physical pleasure you engage in is ultimately going to be
Worthless.
pointless. Okay? Yeah. Mishlei is Mishlei is like the moral compass. Like, how do I know what's the right thing to do? Like, I'll give you an example of Mishlei. Mishlei will tell you what's the harm of being lazy? Why is lazy harmful? Right? But what Koheles tells you is that Koheles says the whole pursuit that most people, 99% of the world involves with their lives are basically just pointless. All right? Why though? All right? A lot of this stuff is stuff I've had shiurim over the years and stuff. My own stuff, so I don't even know which one is which anymore. When it comes to Koheles, focuses a lot on pleasures. All right? What's the concern about the pursuit of pleasure? Why is it such an important issue to understand?
Because you get caught up in it.
Okay, good. Oh, you get caught up in it. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Man's life.
But it's more than just getting
man's life as a pursuit of pleasure.
right. But it's more than that. It's more than getting caught up in it. All right. So what is the world of now? We got to be careful because the Torah doesn't say pleasure is intrinsically bad. Because, for instance, you have Oneg Shabbos. And Oneg Shabbos is what? You're supposed to enjoy Shabbos.
Puravu.
So you're puravu, right? That's pleasurable. So you have to modify it. What kind of pleasure is bad? I hate to use that word. What kind of pleasure?
Not conscious. Free.
Oh, okay, you go unnecessary. All right, but why? What does it do? See, this is the beauty. This is the trick of the world. It's wonderful.
Pleasure for the sake of pleasure.
Right, pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Why is that so bad? Why is that such a bad thing? What's so bad about that? Okay, so there's no purpose. A lot of things have no purpose. Why is that so bad? What does it do to you?
When do a lot of things have no purpose?
This is no purpose. The Ram talks
What
about.
place in Torah do we have something
But that's not necessarily by definition harmful. What's the harm of that?
your whole being on
You're
certain
making away
things
from the
serve God?
You're right. So I would just say I'm not doing it. I want you to produce like the defect of engaging in pleasure for the sake of pleasure. What happens to your mind?
Your mentality will be set to unnecessary pleasures. I mean, if your mentality is set to it.
When you engage in pleasure for the sake of pleasure, what does your mind tell you?
There's no possibility of an upward, I guess, appeal to the more chill side. There's no possibility of perfection in pleasure just for the sake of pleasure. You'll just stay stagnant like this if you're just pleasure for the sake of pleasure.
Okay, but I'd say it's even worse than that. I'd say it harms you. How does it harm you? Ariel's almost there. How does it harm you? How does engaging in pleasure for the sake of pleasure, which Koheles takes up over and over again?
It's the illusion that that's the purpose.
Say it again.
It's the illusion that that's
Oh, so what happens to your mind? What is your mind? If you engage in a pleasure for the sake of pleasure, it's going to feel good. Now, what does your mind tell you at that point?
It almost feels bad.
If it feels
better
good-
than constantly experiencing the pleasure. It's freer. It's a freer experience.
Well, but you don't have to go to the grand. What?
Eating Skittles with the idea.
All right, different. Right. So it is the
Skittles with the
good.
idea that I have to stop at the 50th one is not as fun as just eating Skittles stuff.
Right, fine. Okay, but you're getting too detailed. The point though is that every time if a man engages in this pleasure for the sake of pleasure, it's not just that he's not engaged in Torah. But what happens is that in your mind something clicks. No, but something clicks in your mind, and what does your mind tell you? This because I'm enjoying it and it's good. It ever becomes the good. It's as simple as that. That's the danger of the world of pleasure. The world of the pursuit of pleasure will always lead you down that path. Your brain will trick you and it'll say, oh, it feels good, right? I like it. I feel good right now. So therefore, what is it? It clicks into being the good. Yeah. Koheles goes through every single possible lifestyle that a person can live. Every possible major life pursuit that a person has and shows you not just that it's not Torah, but it shows you why it harms a person. That's what Koheles does. So it's more than just simply that I'm not involved in Torah. Right? It's worse than that. It's destructive to the human being. Right? And that's one of the biggest challenges. Now, if pleasure is attached to something real, like if it's attached to Torah, if a person says, listen, I'll give you perfect nafkamina, I'll take Shabbos. If a person, it's like the sleep issue, right? It's this Baal Batish thing, I can't stand it. Everyone always says, what do people love doing on Shabbos? Sleeping, right? So what do they say? Well, it's Menucha Shabbos. So I always ask them Akasha. But what do we say in Mincha? Come on, Shemon Esrei Mincha. Menuchas, Ahava, Nadava, Menuchas, Emes Emuna. I sleep. I've never had a Menuchas, Emes Emuna. I don't think that Menuchas Emuna means a sleep of truth and belief. I don't think that's the Menucha there is not talking about sleeping. It's a different idea. No. So the question is, so why is a person sleeping? So if a person looks forward to Shabbos, right, so he can just sleep, that's seeking pleasure. That's not Shabbos. Right? But if a person says, listen, I know Shabbos is headed for learning. I take a nap on Shabbos to give me more energy to learn, then the pleasure is attached to the real. Same with eating also. If a person just like having a big meal, like people today, they love, what does Shabbos become? I have my friends over, we socialize, we talk about the schools I send my kids to, or the extension I'm building in my house, blah, 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 blah. Right? Yaakov knows exactly what I'm talking about. Look at this sheet. So in order to understand what Koheles is about, or why Koheles will be different, the best thing to do is to start off with the first three psukim of three Sfarim that Shlomo wrote. And then we can deduce from the differences in Koheles why Koheles will be different. So in source number 1, Divrei Koheles ben David, Melech Yerushalayim. Then you have Shira Mashal Shlomo, and you have Mishlei Shlomo ben David, Melech Yisrael. So who could tell me what the differences are? Yes, Tamir. Let's start with the Pashut one. Who's Koheles? Who's Koheles? That's number 1. And the other ones is Shlomo. What else?
Yeah,
Ben David.
Ben David, good. Okay, good.
buddy.
Melech Yisrael.
Here. What's the difference in Melech?
Melech Yisrael, Melech Yerushalayim.
Ah, okay, good. All right, so
I'm not just bored.
of course you did, Nick. So let's try to analyze these. So what does Koheles mean? What's Koheles? Why does he choose the name Koheles?
Guys, come on.
Why does he choose the name Koheles? What's Koheles?
Kahal.
So look at Rashi. Who's going to be Rashi?
Me.
Avi, go. Rashi.
Hashem Shekihel Chachamos Harbe.
What does that mean?
It was a collection of many wisdoms.
He collected together many wisdoms. Okay. What?
He didn't make them up.
Koheles is unique because it's not Nevuah. It's Ruach HaKodesh. He used his own mind. God just seemed to assist him in putting it all
I was
together.
gonna say,
So-
if I mix together Koheles and Mishlei, I make my own safer.
Say it again?
If I mix together Koheles and Mishlei, I make my own safer.
Right. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so but what's Rashi telling you? Come on, guys. What's Rashi telling you? Al Shem Shekiel Chacham Sarve. So what makes Koheles different? What's he telling you? What's
Koheles mean? Chacham.
Well, he's saying Kihel, like Kahal, gather together. So what do you have to do to write Koheles?
Yeah, you have to do work, research.
A lot of pop-
Wisdom.
A lot of Chachma. Okay, so different, which is different than Mishlei and Shir Hashirim.
Why?
So because he doesn't say that by Mishlei and Shir Hashirim, right? So what it's telling you is that.
Here, Rashi says it.
No, I know, but the fact that he's using the name Koheles, Rashi's telling you something. He's telling you that, why is he using the name Koheles? Because he's telling you that this Sefer required him to know, basically, everything. In other words, he couldn't enter into this without complete knowledge. All right? That makes it different than Mishlei and let's say others farm. Because Mishlei, and again, I'm just using it based on Rashi, using the inverse. But Mishlei doesn't say this. Doesn't mean you have to know a lot to know Mishlei, but it seems like Koheles stands apart because Koheles is like the Sefer that encompasses, you need to know the most knowledge before writing Koheles. How do we know it to be the case? Wait till we do Koheles, okay?
How does that make any sense if the other ones you got through Nevuah?
He didn't get into Nevuah. He didn't get to Nevuah. He had Ruach HaKodesh. Big difference.
Which ones did he have Nevuah? Go ahead.
All of them.
Which ones did he have Nevuah?
None of them.
He didn't have it.
He didn't have Nevuah. Shlomo wasn't a Navi. He had Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, what's the other shot? The other shot's a little tougher. The Eish Omrim, look at the next one.
The Eish Omer Kuldra Bahakel, he said all these in a group. Or
And there's a measure that brings down that what happened was that Chachamim will come in and out listening to him give over these ideas. So what does that show you about what's Koheles mean? What does it show you?
It went through the bureaucratic system.
I think I know what you mean, but can someone... Good, okay. So it means that by the Chachamim, okay? In other words, meaning that the Chachamim saw what he had to say and they accepted it, okay? So whatever's going on here, you see that he doesn't go by Mishlei or Shir Hashirim. He doesn't test out Mishlei or Shir Hashirim with groups. Koheles, he tests it out with Chachamim. So obviously we're dealing with something a little bit different than your normal Sefer, all right? But here's where things get really, really weird, all right? That's just like, it has you sense of something different going on here. But this Gemara, this is the question Gemara. And this is the Gemara, we're not going to answer this Gemara now. This is the question that'll, for the next couple of weeks, will guide us throughout the entire process, yes. So look at this next Gemara, all right? This is one of the most famous Gemaras about Koheles. And this really should serve as the backdrop for why it calls it so difficult. Amar Rav Yehuda Bereid Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas Mishmei the Rav Bikshu Chachamim Lignos Sefer Koheles Mibnei Shedvarav Sosrin Zeh Zeh. You never see this anywhere else. The Gemara says that they wanted to do what? What does Gonez mean though? Let's be careful. Be specific. What's Gonez?
Store.
Right. So what does it imply?
You save it for later?
Well, what does Geniza always imply in halacha?
Oh, it's something very special to it?
Well, wait, it's Kisvei Kodesh, but yet for some reason we don't want it out there. Okay, so they wanted to get rid of it, so to speak, get it out of the system. And they couldn't remove its kedusha. They want to get out of the system. Why? B'meisha dvarav sosrim zeh zeh. Why is that so difficult?
What it means is that someone else was writing stuff that contradicted each other.
That's one problem. Okay, so what are you telling me? Shlomo. Okay, so obviously it can't mean that Shlomo is contradictory.
Right.
But what were they worried about?
You'll never see it.
Oh, okay, so you'll see as we go through Koheles is just filled with massive contradictions. Massive contradictions. I know that this is also a beautiful proof for why.
You need pillars.
Well, exactly, because otherwise you're left with these crazy contradictions. Okay, now, but 1 second. So why didn't they put into Geniza? Why didn't they? So the Gemara says, "Umnei ma lo ganzu." Okay, mimnei shet chilaso divrei Torah v'sofo divrei Torah, because the beginning of it is Torah and the end of it is Torah. So in the beginning it says Ma Yisron Adam V'chol Amalo Shem Al Tachas Hashemesh, and then the Gemara darshans it out, and the end, everyone knows the end. The end is Sof Davar Kol Nishma Es Elokim Yirav Es Mitzvosav Shmor Kizeh Kol Adam. So because it's bookmarked by, think about the Gemara saying, which is on the surface sounds really wacky. It's saying the first pasuk and the last pasuk are what?
Oh, so it's all good.
Right, so one second. So 99.9% of Koheles is Soser itself, but because you happen to have one pasuk, which you darshan out as Torah, and the last one, which you darshan out as Torah, somehow that makes Koheles good. What kind of thing is that? And now it gets even worse, because let me say the question. What does Koheles say at the end? Sof davar hakol nishma, right? So what does that mean? At the end of the day, right, Koheles is telling you what? When it's all said and done.
It's all for naught.
No, that's what he says though.
Keep the mitzvahs. Keep the
Yeah, he says, kol nishma, what do you have? All you have is what?
Why did you write the sefer then?
Right.
Keeping the mitzvah.
So what obvious question? You have to ask him that.
Why did you write the sefer?
Right. So why write Koheles?
Is that a mitzvah to write the sefer?
What?
Is that a mitzvah to write the sefer?
To show you, I mean, he could.
Well, that's
He
a
could-
technical good
he
question.
could have.
That's what we're asking.
Right, but so the fact
He
you
wanted
want
to show you.
okay. So you see that going through the process of analyzing every other type of thing, right, will get you to the point where all you're left with is so devar kol nishma as selakim yira. Now our job is to take some of those examples and see why that's the case. But it's an astonishing Gemara that a Gemara proposes that the reason why they would not include Koheles as part of the normal set of svarim is because Dvarim Sosrim Zeh. Now, obviously, we're talking about major steeras here, because where else do you see steeras? All over the place. Where don't you see steeras? You know what I mean? When we look at Torah, we can find plenty of steeras in Torah, right? So whatever's going on in Koheles must be so traumatic, right, and so difficult that Chazal felt necessary to, as a havmina, put it out of the system. And look at the last source, and this was all enough with, right? The last one's even crazier, yeah. This is something that this really bothers the average Jew. Okay.
Like the average steers in Torah, like come up with a shot of why it's not a steer or something like that. But they must have felt that we were incapable of actually figuring it out.
Oh, okay, so let me address both. There's two things in what you're saying. All right, let me address the second one, and then I'll get back to the first one. Okay. There's no question that their Chazal are concerned that people would walk away thinking that the system is crazy. Right, that's what Koheles does. But you know what's happened today. You know about this stuff. What's happened today a lot is that when people see stira, there's a big. Everyone knows about the documentary hypothesis, the notion that the Bible, Johnny,
Probably.
the Bible is written by who?
Everybody.
No. Who are the authors? Right, J, Q. Right. Okay, that's documentary hypothesis. Okay, that was written by 5 different authors. Now, why do they say that?
J-E-I who?
Well, I don't remember who. Why do they say that though? Well, what's the basis for saying that? Let's take Parshas Bereishis.
Different writing styles all over the place. So they say, oh, this is written from this time period. This is written.
All right, okay, so let's start off with the easiest one, Hashem and Elokim. Yud Kei Vav Kei versus Elokim. They love that one because, well, why does God represent himself in 2 different ways? So it must be 2 different authors. But where is the one that really irks them? What really bothers the biblical critics? What's Sefer of the 5? Dvarim. Okay, Dvarim kills them. And therefore, what's creeped into Yehadis today, and I say that carefully.
Like they can't understand it, so they're forced to.
Bingo. Right? In other words, they see Dvarim, and they see Dvarim as no possible way that Dvarim is part of the Torah. No possible way. For example, you see Moshe's versions of the stories, like for instance, the Meraglim, right? Things are out of order. Emphasis is put on this and not that. Look at Aseret Dibros. If you approach it like you would approach a novel, you'd say, 1 second, there are 2 different versions of Aseret Dibros, right? One has more facts than the other. One emphasizes Shamor and Zachar. We have a beautiful medrash. They say, what do you mean? It must be 2 different versions of what happened. Point though is that that's become part of many streams of left-wing Orthodox Judaism that maintain that this stuff was added in later on because of these stiras. What do they conclude? Oh, it's not a stira. It just means that some of the stuff was written later on. I mean, there are people who you'll be surprised. You go into a shul, you'll be surprised. At least 2 or 3 people you look around are people who don't believe in Torah Sinai. They believe that some of it was given at Sinai and stuff over the years was added in, etc., etc. It's like the Rambam says, when the Rambam talks about Intro to Chelek, he talks about there are 2 kitos, the 2 groups of people when it comes to how they learn. One group are the literalists, right? Whatever the Rebbe says, they listen to, no matter how absurd it sounds. The third one is not really a kas. It doesn't call it a kas. It's only the 2 bad ones, okay? The second one are worse than the first. Because who are they? They're the ones who say, oh, Chazal said crazy things, right? They must be crazy. I know more than them, right? Since Johnny's such a show. Look at what this medrash says. Look at number 6. My Yisrael Adams, Arab ben Yamin, Bikshu Chachamim Ligno Sefer Koheles. Why? Mination Matsubo Dvar Matin Litzad Minus. So forget the stiras. What can happen if you read Mishlei? Excuse me, Koheles. Nice slip. What happens if you read Koheles? What can it lead you to? What's minus? Kfira. That's scary stuff. So you have this sefer out there which seems to be on the one hand, Shlomo writes it. He has this, you have to have all this tremendous chachma to write something like Koheles, but it's such a dangerous sefer. So what we're going to do is, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to pick a few stiras, and then we'll take up and figure out how do you answer these contradictions. All right? But ultimately, what you guys will get out of Koheles is that you'll see that every pursuit you think of in life that's outside the Torah is basically no, not kfira. It's fruitless.
Oh.
It'll
I thought you said futile.
it's futile also, but it'll never give you that pleasure that you're actually looking for.